All right, welcome everyone to this deep dive. We're going to be taking a good look at the magic of thinking big. Specifically, some really interesting excerpts that we pulled from David J. Schwartz's work. And try to get to the bottom of, how we can actually apply these ideas to grow that big thinking mindset. To make it work in our own lives.
What's really cool is that Schwartz doesn't just throw that phrase around, think big,
Right.
He really digs into why it's so important and gives you this roadmap for actually making it happen.
Okay, so let's start with this idea of the power of belief.
Okay.
Schwartz talks about this guy, Harry, right? This average guy who becomes incredibly successful.
Right.
And the secret is Harry was thinking 5 times bigger than everyone else around him.
Oh, wow.
It really makes you think, where are we holding ourselves back,
Absolutely, yeah.
What could we be doing if we were thinking bigger?
And what's cool is that he doesn't just limit that principle to business.
Right.
It could be aiming for a promotion, that trying a creative project, or just even improving your relationships or personal life, right?
Yeah.
It's the size of our thinking sets the stage for everything else we do.
It's like he's saying our beliefs actually create our reality.
Yeah.
So for you listening, think about one area where maybe you've been playing it a little safe. What would it look like if you applied that 5 times bigger thinking to that? Really push those boundaries.
Yeah, it's a powerful question.
Now, Schwartz also acknowledges that thinking big is not always easy, right?
Right.
And he brings up this concept of excusitis.
Yeah.
Basically, using excuses to justify our lack of progress.
He calls it the disease of failures.
Exactly.
And one common form of this is health excusitis,
Okay.
where we use health challenges as a reason to not take action.
We've all probably done that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
To some extent.
Absolutely.
Now, he shares this story of a diabetic division manager who's actually thriving in his career even though he's got a severe case.
Right.
But the point is the guy's mindset, right?
Yeah.
He's not letting this condition define him.
It's amazing.
It's so inspiring. It's instead of asking, why me, he's asking, what can I do despite this?
Powerful.
So think about that for yourself, right?
Yeah.
How can you apply that same thinking to your own challenges?
Yeah, that's the essence of resilience, right?
Yeah.
It's not about ignoring challenges. It's about choosing how we react to them.
And Schwartz really emphasizes that mindset can actually impact reality, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
This leads to another point he makes. He challenges this assumption that intelligence is the key to success. He even gives an example of this super smart person who actually fails in life because of their negativity.
It's true.
It's wow, being smart isn't enough, right?
That's so true.
And then he contrasts that with Phil, who makes 3 times more than his very educated colleagues, but it's because of his attitude and his ability to connect with people.
His people skills, yeah.
So it really makes you wonder, what's more valuable? Knowing all the facts or having the right attitude and strong relationships?
It's a great question.
Seems like Schwartz is leaning toward the latter there.
He is.
He really emphasizes that we should be prioritizing thinking over just memorizing facts.
Yeah.
And really focus on using our minds for problem solving and coming up with ideas.
Being creative, yeah.
So let's get into some of the practical stuff because he talks about developing a big thinker's vocabulary. So what does he mean by that?
So it's about being really conscious of the language we use, right?
Okay.
Choosing positive and optimistic words when we're describing our feelings and situations.
So instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, you might say, I'm facing a tough situation, but I'm confident I can handle it.
Exactly.
Is that the kind of thing he's talking about?
Yeah, it's about choosing words that empower us rather than words that drain our energy.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then he talks about the power of visualization.
Oh, yeah.
Really vividly picturing the outcome you want.
Right.
To fuel your motivation and action.
Seeing it.
Yeah. And he shares this example of salesman who creates these detailed plans.
Wow.
For all the different ways this farm could be used. Really showcasing that power of planning and visualization.
It's interesting.
Have you ever used visualization in your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a super powerful tool for, getting clear on your goals and motivating yourself to actually do something about it.
And that kind of ties into this next principle he explores, focusing on the big picture.
Yeah.
So instead of getting bogged down in the tiny details, he wants us to prioritize those major objectives.
Right.
And keep our eyes on the prize.
It's about taking a step back and asking, what's really important here?
Yeah.
And then focusing your energy on those things that are really going to move the needle.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Oh.
He introduces this concept of creative thinking.
Right.
And he challenges this assumption that, like, creativity is only for artists or scientists, right?
Right.
He's saying anyone can be creative. And
Yeah.
he even gives some really interesting exercises for unlocking that potential.
Like what?
One of the most memorable ones is this eliminate the jail challenge.
Eliminate the jail.
Yeah, where he asks people to imagine a world without jails
Wow.
and then come up with different solutions to crime.
Interesting.
I remember reading about that, and at first people are, like, really resistant to the idea. They're
Yeah.
like, no, we need jails.
Sticking to the status quo.
Yeah, but then as they start brainstorming, they come up with all sorts of creative solutions.
It's amazing how those limiting beliefs can just shut down our creativity, you know?
Totally.
And when we question them, we open up all these new possibilities.
He also shares this story about a student who figured out how to finish school despite all these obstacles.
Wow.
Just a true testament to resourcefulness.
Yeah.
And then there's this shopkeeper who, like, implements this weekly improvement program.
Weekly improvement program.
Yeah, he's constantly looking for ways to make things better.
It's cool. It's like you can train your mind to be more creative by always trying to improve
Yeah.
and looking for new ways to do things.
Now, here's another point that really sticks with me.
Yep.
The impact of our environment,
Yeah.
the people we surround ourselves with,
It's huge.
they shape our thinking and ultimately our outcomes.
Absolutely.
And he uses these two contrasting examples to illustrate this point.
Okay.
First, there's the negative influence of this guy, WW,
Oh.
who was, like, super cynical and almost derailed Schwartz's own belief in hard work and positive thinking.
Wow.
It's a powerful reminder to be mindful of the advice we take
Right.
and the people we let into our inner circle. Then there's this inspiring example of Lou Gordon, who achieved some amazing things in his later years
Okay.
because he refuses to give up on his goals.
It's great.
And his story just shows the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up, you know?
Right. People who encourage us to grow.
It's like choosing to be around people who fuel our fire, not those who are trying to extinguish it.
I love that.
So for you listening, think about the people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
Do they encourage you to think bigger, or do they hold you back?
That's a great question.
Are you actively seeking out those environments that will help you grow and challenge you to think differently?
It's so important.
And Schwartz even gives some practical advice for expanding our social circles.
Like what?
He suggests joining new organizations, making new friends, and, like, circulating in new groups
Okay.
to get exposed to a wider range of perspectives and ideas.
I like that.
It's about getting outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
Now, let's be realistic for a second.
Okay.
Setbacks are going to happen.
Of course.
They're inevitable on the path to success.
It's part of the journey.
But Schwartz's message isn't about avoiding defeat.
Right.
It's about how we choose to respond to it.
That's the key.
He shares some really compelling stories of people who turned defeat into fuel for growth.
Like who?
Like, there's the student who fails a course,
Oh.
but then uses that as motivation to excel.
Wow.
I think we've all had moments like that,
Yeah.
where a setback actually became a turning point.
Totally.
It's all about how we frame it, you know?
It is.
And then there's this incredible story of a tank commander who's blinded in World War II,
Oh, wow.
but then finds a new purpose in life.
That's powerful.
These stories just highlight the power of resilience and the ability to find meaning, even in the face of adversity.
It's inspiring.
They show us that setbacks don't have to define us.
Right.
We can choose to see them as learning opportunities, not reasons to give up.
And Schwartz actually gives us a framework for doing that. He says it's about analyzing our setbacks to learn from them and avoid making the same mistakes again.
So it's like, what happened? What can I learn from this?
Exactly.
Not just why me.
Right. And he also says to avoid blaming luck
Okay.
and to take responsibility for our own outcomes.
It's about owning our choices and recognizing that we have the power to grow from our experiences.
I like that.
And that ties into this next key point he makes.
Okay.
The importance of setting long-term goals.
Right.
He contrasts this aimless young man, FB, who just kind of lacks direction, with this trainee who creates this super detailed 10-year plan for his family and career.
Wow, that's impressive.
And the difference is just striking.
It
It
is.
shows you the power of having a clear vision for the future.
Yeah.
It's like having this internal compass that guides your decisions,
Totally.
even when things get tough.
And Schwartz also says it's crucial to align your goals with your passions.
Right.
It's not just about achieving success for the sake of it. It's about creating a life that's meaningful and fulfilling.
So it's less about what do I want to achieve and more about what am I passionate about? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind?
I like that.
And once we've figured that out, he gives us some practical steps.
Go ahead.
He says, break those long-term goals down into smaller steps and then use those goals to fuel your ambition.
Keep you moving forward.
And stay committed to your vision.
It's about creating a roadmap for success.
Right.
And navigating the challenges along the way.
Now, here's where he connects these principles to something bigger.
Right.
Leadership and progress.
Right.
He argues that real leadership isn't about keeping things the same.
Right.
It's about driving progress and improvement.
Making things better.
Exactly. And he tells this story of 3 salesmen who are all up for a promotion.
Okay.
The one who stands out is the guy who's actively trying to improve the company. Not just maintain the existing systems.
It's a great illustration of how a progressive mindset can set you apart and make you a better leader.
And he makes this really interesting point.
What's that?
That people tend to mirror the attitudes of their leaders.
Oh, yeah.
So if the leader is always complaining
Right.
and focused on problems, the team is going to do the same.
Of course.
But if the leader is positive and enthusiastic and looking for ways to improve, the team will be inspired to do the same.
That's a lot of responsibility for leaders, isn't it?
It is.
It highlights how much they impact the people around them.
It's a reminder that leadership isn't just a title. It's about setting an example and inspiring others to reach their potential.
Yeah.
Schwartz encourages everyone, whether they're in a formal leadership position or not, to embrace that progressive mindset and always be thinking about how to improve things.
I love that.
And now he introduces a concept that might seem a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
The importance of managed solitude.
Solitude.
Yeah, time spent alone. He contrasts those who are afraid to be alone with successful leaders who actually use solitude to tap into their creative power.
Oh, interesting.
It's like recharging your batteries, giving yourself that mental space to process information, generate ideas, connect with your inner wisdom.
It's about creating space for deeper thinking.
Exactly. And he explains that solitude can be super beneficial for problem solving, planning, evaluating yourself, and coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, makes sense.
So for you listening, how do you feel about solitude? Do you embrace it or do you avoid it?
That's a great question.
What could you gain by incorporating a bit more of it into your life?
I think that's a great place to end this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the power of belief to the importance of choosing our environment wisely, turning defeat into victory, setting long-term goals, and embracing a leadership mindset.
I'm excited for the next part.
We also touched on the power of language. Yeah.
Visualization, even solitude to fuel our growth.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for part 2.
Okay.
Where we'll dive even deeper into the practical wisdom of the magic of thinking big.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the magic of thinking big.
Now, in part 1, we explored a whole range of strategies for, building that success mindset.
Right.
But what about, dealing with the negativity that comes our way?
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, there are always going to be people who try to bring us down.
It's true.
Whether they mean to or not.
Schwartz actually calls these people human termites.
Human termites, okay.
Yeah. They're the ones who, chip away at our confidence and enthusiasm.
It's so easy to get caught up in their drama, right?
It is. It's like their negativity just sucks you in.
But Schwartz suggests a totally different approach.
Okay, what's that?
Instead of fighting back, he says, just refuse to engage.
Interesting.
He argues that battling with those small-minded people just brings us down to their level. Yeah, it's like, what's that saying? Never wrestle with a pig.
Yeah, you both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it.
Exactly.
And Schwartz makes another interesting point.
Okay.
Sometimes getting sniped at can actually be a sign that we're growing.
Really?
Like we're making progress, standing out from the crowd.
Oh, okay.
And that can make some people uncomfortable.
So instead of feeling defeated, we should actually see it as a good thing.
Exactly.
Like we're on the right track.
He even says that those snipers are often just projecting their own insecurities and failures onto others.
Oh,
That's not really about us, it's about them.
That's a good point.
So instead of taking it personally, he suggests feeling a little compassion for them.
Okay.
Which is definitely a healthier approach.
It is.
Right. Instead of getting defensive or angry,
Yeah.
we can choose to see them as like struggling with their own internal battles.
I like that.
And he gives this simple mantra
Okay.
for dealing with these situations. Think big enough to be immune to the attacks of petty people.
I love that.
It's about building that inner strength.
Right.
So the negativity just bounces off of it.
Yeah, like a shield.
And that leads into another challenge that Schwartz addresses.
Okay.
That feeling of, I haven't got what it takes.
Oh, yeah.
That can creep up on us sometimes.
We've all been there.
That self-doubt.
Absolutely.
That makes us question our abilities.
It can be crippling.
And Schwartz has this really powerful message for those moments.
What's that?
If you think you are weak, you are. If you think you're inadequate, you are. If you think you're second class, you are.
Wow, that's intense.
It's a reminder that our beliefs really do shape our reality.
It's true.
If we keep telling ourselves we're not good enough, we'll start to believe it.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And he gives us some great tools for combating that negativity.
Like what?
One is to remind ourselves of our past successes.
Yeah.
Those moments where we proved ourselves wrong,
Yep.
where we achieved something we thought was impossible.
It's easy to forget about those wins.
Totally. We tend to focus on our shortcomings.
Right.
He also says to focus on our strengths, not our weaknesses. Everyone has unique talents and abilities, right?
Of course.
So what are yours? What are you naturally good at?
I think it's good to be aware of our weaknesses too, though.
Oh, definitely.
But not let them define us.
Exactly.
It's about balance.
And another powerful tool is how we talk to ourselves.
Self-talk.
Are we encouraging and supportive?
Yeah.
Or are we constantly putting ourselves down?
It's like having that inner cheerleader.
Yeah, instead of that inner critic.
And Schwartz has this interesting suggestion.
Okay.
He says to act successful.
Act successful.
Even before you feel successful.
It's like that fake it till you make it idea.
Kinda, but he's saying it's more than just pretending.
Okay.
It's about aligning your actions with your desired outcome.
So like if you want to be a more confident public speaker, you start by volunteering to give presentations.
Even if you feel nervous.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
Exactly.
He also talks about the impact negativity can have on our relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And he gives some advice for avoiding arguments and quarrels.
Because those are never fun?
And they rarely lead to anything productive.
It's true.
He says, before you get into an argument, ask yourself,
Okay.
is this thing really important enough to argue about?
That's a good question.
What's the cost of this argument? Is it worth it?
And he reminds us that you never really gain anything from an argument.
Right.
You always lose something, whether it's time, energy, peace of mind.
Or even relationships.
So the next time you feel yourself getting pulled into a pointless argument,
Yeah.
remember those words?
Is this really important enough to argue about?
He challenges us to think big enough to see that all those quarrels, arguments, feuds,
they're not helping us.
they just hold us back from where we want to go.
It's about choosing to focus our energy on what really matters.
Right.
And letting go of the petty stuff.
That's a great point.
And this ties into dealing with defeat,
Yeah.
which we touched on earlier.
Right.
Schwartz emphasizes that setbacks are going to happen.
They are.
But it's all about how we respond.
So what does he suggest?
He says, view them as lessons.
Okay.
Research them, understand what happened, and salvage something valuable from every defeat.
So it's about shifting our perspective.
Yeah, from why me to what can I learn from this?
It's about adopting that growth mindset
Totally.
and seeing failure as a stepping stone to success.
And he brings it all back to thinking big.
Okay.
It's not just about positive thinking. It's about taking action,
Right.
making things happen, creating a life that's truly fulfilling.
So he's not just giving us a bunch of theories.
Right.
He's giving us concrete tools and strategies.
It's about putting these principles into practice.
Exactly.
He encourages us to set big goals, break them down into steps, and take action.
Consistent action.
Believe in ourselves,
Yeah.
develop a positive attitude, surround ourselves with supportive people.
It's a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
But the rewards are definitely worth the effort.
I agree.
He challenges us to embrace creativity, think progressively, and use solitude to tap into our potential.
That's power.
And most importantly, he reminds us that we have the power to create the life we want.
It's all within us.
It all starts with how we think.
So true.
So he's not just giving us tools.
Right.
He's giving us a roadmap for transformation.
I love that.
A way to change our thinking and ultimately change our lives.
Now, in part 3 of our deep dive, we're going to explore some practical strategies for putting these principles into action.
Awesome. I can't wait.
We'll look at how to overcome fear, build confidence, and develop those habits that can really make a difference.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We've been exploring some really powerful insights from The Magic of Thinking Big.
Yeah, it's such a classic.
We've talked about, the power of belief, the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
And even how to, turn those setbacks into fuel for growth.
It's all about perspective.
But now in this final part, let's talk about actually putting this wisdom into action.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to, talk about thinking big, but it's another thing entirely to actually do it, right?
It is. It's about taking those ideas and making them real.
Exactly. And Schwartz doesn't just leave us hanging with a bunch of theories.
Right.
He gives us some concrete tools and strategies to help us actually apply big thinking to our lives.
Yeah. So where do we start?
Well, he tackles one of the biggest obstacles to action right away.
What's that?
Fear.
Fear, yeah.
He reminds us that everyone experiences fear, but it's how we respond to it that matters.
That makes all the difference.
So how do we deal with fear in a big thinking kind of way?
Well, he gives us 3 really powerful strategies.
Okay.
The first is action cures fear.
Okay, so don't wait until you feel brave or confident.
Right, just take that first step.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes the anticipation is way worse than the actual action.
And his second suggestion is to isolate your fears.
Isolate your fears.
Yeah, because a lot of times what we see as this one big, overwhelming fear is actually a bunch of smaller, more manageable fears.
Okay.
So break it down.
Yeah. Don't let it overwhelm you.
And then his last point is to act courageously.
Act courageously.
Even if you don't feel courageous.
So our actions can actually influence our feelings.
Exactly. It's like that idea we talked about before,
Yeah.
acting successful before you feel successful.
Right. It's about aligning our behavior with how we want to feel.
And then he moves on to building confidence.
Okay, confidence.
Which is so essential for, thinking big and achieving those goals.
It's like that inner fuel that keeps us going.
But what if we're, lacking confidence?
Yeah, what do we do then?
What does Schwartz suggest?
Well, he suggests some pretty practical things.
Like what?
Like using positive self-talk,
Okay.
dressing for success, even practicing good posture.
It sounds simple.
It is, but those small things can actually make a big difference in how we see ourselves.
And how others see us.
Exactly.
He also says being prepared is huge.
Oh, yeah.
The more prepared we are.
The more confident we feel.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Whether it's a presentation or a job interview, that sense of preparedness just boosts my confidence.
Now, one of the things I really appreciate about Schwartz's book is his focus on developing the habits of successful people.
Habits. So good.
He's basically saying success isn't about luck or talent.
Right.
It's about consistently doing those things that successful people do.
It's like building a foundation, brick by brick.
Exactly.
So what kind of habits is he talking about?
He gives a whole list, and we can't cover them all here.
Yeah.
But there are a few that really stand out.
Which ones resonate with you?
Well, one that always sticks with me
Yeah.
is the idea of looking for the good in others.
Okay.
Schwartz says that when we focus on the positive qualities in people, it not only makes our relationships better,
Yeah.
it actually creates a more positive and productive environment overall.
So instead of dwelling on their flaws,
Right.
we should try to see their strengths.
Exactly. I like that. He also emphasizes the importance of being a good listener.
Oh, absolutely.
He even writes, people who don't listen have trouble making friends and influencing people.
That's a good point.
Listening is such an underrated skill,
It is. It shows respect. It builds rapport.
It helps us understand other perspectives.
Another habit he highlights is speaking clearly and concisely.
Oh yeah, communication is key.
Effective communication is so important for success.
No matter what field you're in.
And he also encourages us to be enthusiastic and energetic.
Yeah, bring that positive energy.
Enthusiasm is contagious.
Yeah.
And it can inspire others.
I love that.
It's about being passionate about what you do.
And he doesn't forget about taking care of our physical health.
Our physical health, right?
Because our physical and mental well-being are so interconnected.
Absolutely. It's hard to think big when you're feeling drained.
Totally.
And finally, he says to give more than you expect to receive.
Okay.
This applies to, like, Everything, our relationships, our work, our communities.
It's about approaching every interaction with generosity.
And a willingness to contribute.
And recognizing that true success isn't just about what we achieve for ourselves.
Right.
It's about the positive impact we have on the world around us.
It's a bigger picture.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the magic of thinking big,
Yeah.
I think it's worth circling back to that core message.
Okay.
Our thoughts have incredible power.
They do.
If we want to achieve great things, we need to start by believing we can.
We need to believe in ourselves.
And then we need to take action, cultivate positive habits, and surround ourselves with those supportive people.
It's a journey.
It is.
Not a destination.
But the rewards are worth the effort.
Absolutely.
And Schwartz has given us that roadmap.
A roadmap for transforming our thinking.
And ultimately transforming our lives.
He leaves us with a question to consider.
Okay, what's that?
What's one area of your life where you can start thinking bigger today?
So for you listening, what's one small step you can take today
to move closer to those dreams?
Remember, even the biggest accomplishments start with a single thought.
Think big.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the magic of thinking big.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something valuable and are feeling inspired to think bigger and bolder in all areas of your life.
Until next time.
Keep thinking big.